So we're going to continue to compare numbers, but we're going to just compare using the place values. This is the same idea as with the base 10 blocks, but this works for any size number, whereas if you're using the base 10 blocks, you're pretty much limited to thousands, right? Because we only have the units, rods, flats, and big cubes, so we can't go beyond 4 digits. So we could use this method for even bigger numbers or also for decimals, right? And the idea is the same though. And if you do have a smaller number or smaller numbers you're comparing, you can still kind of picture the base 10 blocks. So what we would do, for example, with 45 and 42 is we would start with, since they both have 2 digits, we would start with the tens place. So we would just start by comparing the digits in the tens place. And if it helps, you can kind of picture that the tens place, that's the rods, right? So we can see that both of these numbers would both have 4 rods. So instead of saying rods, we're just going to call it tens, but it's the same idea. So both numbers have 4 tens. And so because they're the same there, then we would move on. If we were using the pictures, we'd move on to the units. We'll just say ones since we're not actually using the pictures. So then we move on to the ones place. And once we move on to the ones place, we can see that, oh, this one has 5 ones, this one has 2 ones, 5 is more than 2, right? So because they had the same number in the tens place, we would use the ones. And in this case, we say 45 has more ones, therefore it's larger. So I'm going to use the greater than symbol here. So this next one, I could say, oh, well, start with, since they both have 4 digits, I would start with the thousands place. They both have the same number of thousands. So then I would move on to the hundreds. And in this case, they also have the same number of hundreds. So then I would move on to the tens place. And if they have the same number there, then I would move on to the ones place. In this case, though, they do not have the same number in the tens place. So we look at the tens place. And we can see that which one has more tens. Well, this one has 7 tens versus this one has none, right? So we can say that the 5,673 has more tens, therefore it's larger. So again, I'm going to use a greater than symbol here. So whenever our numbers don't have the same number of digits, it would be good to put zeros on there to make them have the same number of digits. In this next example, they both have 5 digits, so we would just start with the leftmost. In this case, they both have a 7 in the 10,000s place. And so since that's the same, we would move on to the thousands place. So we just keep moving to the right, and that is not the same, so we can go ahead and look at the thousands place. And in this case, which one has more thousands? 79,000 has 9 thousands, whereas the 78,999 only has 8 in the thousands place. So that means 79,000 is the bigger one, so I'm going to use a less than symbol there. All right, and then the last one here, we can see they don't have the same number of digits, so I'm going to go ahead and place a 0 in front of the 9, and that's the same thing, right? 0, 10,000s with the 9,264, it's still 9,264, and so in this case, I would start with the leftmost place value, which is going to be the 3 in the first one and the 0 in the second, so that's the 10,000s place. And they are not the same, so we can go ahead and compare them and see which one is bigger. So between 3 and 0, 3 is definitely bigger, right? So you could also say that 35,098 has 10,000s, whereas the 9,264 doesn't, right? Because it's a 0 there. So that means that the 35,098 is the larger number. And that means I'll use a greater than symbol.